All right, so welcome back to another episode of Sober Yoga Girl. I am super excited to have DJ Taz Rashid with me. He is a DJ and he produces amazing yoga music that if you've been to one of my yoga classes, I'm sure you've heard his music before. And I'm super pumped that you're here today, so welcome.
Yeah, it's super great to be here, and I'm happy how you found me through another podcast, the Yogi Show, right? You had said,
yeah.
And so it's great that I know that you listened to it, you found me, and you use my music. I really love these authentic kind of connections because you know my work, you're familiar with what I do, and I'm here to share deeper about the subject and my story. And so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's dive in. Why don't we start off by you kind of telling me a bit about yourself, who you are and where you're from?
Who am I? All right, and there's a lot obviously in our history, but I'm basically right now, I'm a musician, I'm a father, a husband, and that's really my main role. Like if you had to say who am I, that's my main role. I originally from Bangladesh, so I'm an immigrant in the US. I came to America in 1990 and lived in 5 different countries. So I have a nice world perspective. So I love it's everything in this world is perspectives, in my opinion. How you look at it depends on what part of the world you're from and your upbringing and what program you're brought up with. So I'm grateful that I was able to see the world in different ways, and I love living in America. To me, this is happiness right now. I don't want to live anywhere else. And I'm happy with my family, and I love to practice yoga, meditate. I'm on the warrior's path, the peaceful warrior's path, and that's really my story right now. And music is my life. I love my family, I love my wife, but music is my passion. That is my jam. And I could work on music forever, it feels like, and not be tired because it's not work.
It's amazing. That's amazing. I just posted something about that the other day on Instagram. Yesterday was my birthday, actually, and everyone was saying,
belated.
Thank you.
Cool.
Everyone was saying why don't you take a day off work? And I posted the exact same thing, which is I don't want to take a day off work because I love my work and I want to see my yoga students. And, once you've found something that you love, it's I don't need a day off.
Yeah. The idea of vacation is totally different when you find your passion. When I was in the 9 to 5, it was 9 to 5 meaning nothing wrong with 9 to 5. 9 to 5 meaning when I was in the corporate world, not knowing my passion, I consider that living in the matrix or something like that,
Yeah.
And there, everyone I knew and around me and myself, we were always looking for the vacation. We were looking forward to Friday at 5 p.m., leaving work because it was work. And it wasn't oh, this is what I'm here to do and be. And for me, I love Mondays. That's what I love is I love Mondays because that's oh man, I'm finally at my desk, had family all weekend and all that, but I love Mondays. But before it was I love Friday at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
You get to leave. So it's your whole perspective on how you live life changes once you find the passion work and it actually works for you. Because that's the other part is making it work financially. So It's not just I love what I do, but I'm not making any money. It's all right, we got to tweak some things and make it work,
Yeah, totally. So let's dive into kind of your partying sort of history. How did you kind of get into that when you were young?
I mean, it's a similar story with a lot of people. I don't think it's anything special. It was probably sophomore year in high school. It was I was a really good student. I was a musician, but you just start seeing other friends that are smoking weed. It's I think cannabis was popular with it was our school wasn't this is the 90s, so we weren't into pills and all those all kinds of crazy drugs that are out there now. I don't even know half the stuff I don't even know, but we just had cannabis and alcohol. That was it, and it was straight up easy stuff in that way. Of course, there are gateway stuff and other things, but it was just the simple stuff. And it was I didn't even know what getting high was until obviously I tried it. It was holy cow, I'm laughing and this is so much fun. So I started with cannabis, I was in the music scene as well. And it was just a peer thing, you're with some friends and you have this like altered reality, you know, and that's really what it was. It wasn't like I have to get high. It was more like I enjoy this altered reality because music sounds better, food tastes better. So it was like changing the senses, you know. So it was like this like cool experience, and obviously like didn't know the repercussions and all the things that come out of that. It was just like a very innocent type thing. Of course, it was illegal, and you know, you could get in trouble and things like that. So you have to be secretive about it from parents, school. But this is a story that a lot of people share, obviously. And then I, you know, got into alcohol, and my story is actually interesting. So I partied like half of my sophomore year. Junior year was my like dip of partying in high school. Like I was just like, it was like, you know, our school was interesting because like people would leave during lunchtime. So we would all go get stoned during lunch, you know, and a lot of people would drink during lunch too. I never did that. That's like way too much. But I was like kind of like a zombie. I feel like half the day in school, if I went out to lunch and you know, and smoked cannabis, because like I remember I had chemistry too, which is like advanced chemistry. And I sat in the front row, like part of the year. And I remember my eyes were probably bloodshot. I was usually eating a bag of chips. People are like, did you not just get back from lunch? I'm like, yeah, but I'm still so hungry, you know? And I'm like sitting there, and like I remember my teacher, her name was Mrs. Budendek. She was like this nicest lady, older lady. And she knew, I'm sure she knew, but she would never like call you out or make a fool. Like, I just remember she was so animated, but I've totally like looked back. I was like, oh my God, I was like a zombie half that year. My grades, you know, went down and just brought up a lot of things. But interestingly enough, senior year of my high school, I got in some trouble with like some of my friends. I was also a class officer, meaning like I was in student government. So I was like a fully productive, active, you know, I wasn't like partying and then I just like stopped everything. I was like super duper involved with the school, organizing, like I said, student governments. I was on the big teams. I was in bands. I was playing music, like rock music, whatever, like, you know, rock bands, solo stuff, involved with the talent show, getting good grades. So like, it definitely lowered my GPA. I remember that, like I went from like a 3.9 to like a 3.6 kind of thing. But I'm like, and I was like trying to find my identity. This is a big conversation around identity and partying, because especially when we're young, we don't really know like, hey, should I hang out with these kids? Do I hang out with the stoners? Do I hang out with the jocks? Do I hang out with these, or do I just hang out with whoever I want? Like there's just like, you question things, you know, because we're growing up. And I remember going through that because I didn't really know where I fit, because I actually fit in a lot of different places. So, but our school was so segregated with like the groups of people. These are the jocks. These are the soccer guys. These are the, you know, football players. These are the stoners. These are the guys that listen to Fish. These are the guys that listen to Dave Matthews Band. And it was just like, these are the band people, the marching band kids, you know, like, so there's like all these groups. I just did not like that idea. Like, I was just like, I was friends with so many groups. So I'd always go to all kinds of like gatherings and parties. And even in college, I was like that. I was part of a fraternity, but I partied in all the fraternities. Yeah. But interesting, what I was saying is that I went off for our senior year, right before the year started. I got in some trouble with some of my friends, and I would always look older, so I'd go buy beer, and like, because they didn't want to question like a foreign kid or something like that. Like, yeah, he looks Pakistani, he looks like 25. Go ahead, let him through. And I bought like a 6-pack. I remember that, and there was an undercover cop outside, and he busted me and like my friends, and obviously they were really using us to get this gas station in trouble, who was selling to minors. That's what was going on. Yeah, we got arrested, but thank God, because we were minors, they didn't charge anything and we got away. But our school found out and they kicked us off of student government. So all this happened. I couldn't go like join the honor society and stuff like that. But this was a moment in my life where I remember I had to make a decision, and I made, in my opinion, a really good decision. I had all these like party friends. I was involved like with the cool kids and whatever, you know, like you want to call like popular people of the school. And I was partying and all that. But I made this decision. I was like, what if I went 1 year and not drank at all, or smoked any weed, or did anything, just concentrated on school, getting into college, concentrated on music. And I made that decision my senior year, which was like the peak year as a teenager, which was like a year that everyone partied harder than ever because it's like your last year, you know, like hook up as much as possible, party as much as possible because you're leaving all these people, you're going off to college. And I made the decision to let all of that go. And I realized like all my friends changed. Like I wasn't like not hanging out with any of those people all of a sudden. Like, yes, I would sometimes hang out with them, but I wasn't partying with them. So my experience of all that was just like, I was bored. I was like, this is stupid. Like I'm going to go do something. So I played a ton of guitar. I joined the speech and debate team again. I used to do like humorous interpretation when it's like, when you do like different voices and characters. And like, I was like excelling in all these different things. I was working out. I was running in the track team. So like, I totally gave all that up my senior year. It was like really crazy. I had this like zombie-ish kind of like party one year, junior year. And then I got into school. And then when I went to school, obviously I made the conscious decision to start partying again. And I loved it. And I wouldn't have changed that for anything. I partied a lot in college. I went to Miami of Ohio. And that's kind of like how I got into it. But it was a lot of identity seeking. Yeah. It was a lot of finding out, like, it really, I think that's what it is in high school, is your identity. Like, who are you? And then you end up doing this stuff to kind of like fit in or not fit in. That was my experience, at least. And yeah, I wouldn't have changed it. I think I made the right decision of quitting drinking my senior year. It made a huge difference. Yeah, it was crazy.
Like the youngest person I've ever heard who's made that decision.
Yeah, my parents were happy about it. Like, I could have secretly still done it because all my friends were still, like, all those guys I got in trouble with, they all continued that path. They all drank and they did whatever. And I was just like, wow, like, I never hang out with these guys anymore. You know, like, because they would be doing that. And that was like the commonality. And I just, I had like I remember like I felt funnier than ever. I felt like a renaissance that happened within my like upbringing, like, or not like my, I don't know what it was, but I felt really good that senior year. Like everything was just like awesome, you know, because I felt this new identity had come in where I just owned it and I didn't care which group I belonged to and stuff. Like it's like I did that, then I just like tapped out. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna do my own thing for a year. Still friends with all the cool kids or whatever, but it didn't rock me. I didn't care, you know, who I was hanging out with.
Cool. You know, I really related to what you said about at that point in your life when you were drinking a lot, but then also kind of being in all the clubs and doing all the leadership things at the same time, because I was kind of that kid. Like I described myself as like this strange paradox in high school where like I was the editor of the newspaper, but also was doing keg stands on the weekend. And
yes,
so
absolutely. I think that's a fun way to actually be, to be honest. I mean, I lived my entire college year like that. Like I was a student senator. I played music every week. Like starting freshman year, I played guitar a lot and I sang like at all these bars. So it's interesting. So since we're talking about this, in college, and I love this because I never talk about this stuff in any podcast. So it's like kind of a fun subject. So in college though, like because I played guitar well and I sang and stuff, I ended up like meeting a guy who was a junior, like when I was a freshman. So I just got to college and this guy's like, he's in one of the really cool fraternities, like Phi Tau, you know, like they got all the girls and had the best parties and kind of stuff. I wasn't even in there, but he was in there. So he was an older guy. So he got me into all the bars starting like freshman year. And so like, and I would play there and I had this like whole experience starting freshman year of just being able to go anywhere and wherever I wanted in school. And I loved it. Like I was so lucky. I feel like I was like, oh my God, like I didn't even need a fake ID. I just got in wherever I wanted because I played guitar and, you know, I could just party with these older kids and go to their parties and bars and stuff. And so like, I was completely still involved with all the school stuff, campus activities council and this and that, you know?
And so, for you guys in the States, drinking age is much older. Like I'm Canadian.
21.
So, yeah, that's huge. That's a huge deal. If you can go to the bars. For us, it was like, you know, the end 18. Of first year. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. America, that's a big thing. Is like, at 21, like that, you have to be a junior by the time you can go to like
You're like basically done school.
Yeah, you have like 2 years left. I have to come back for a fifth year just to enjoy it, you know? And I did. I did the victory lap, as we call it, and it was good.
So tell me about, I've seen you describe yourself as like bro gone conscious. Tell me about that. Like, so when did you kind of like make this shift from like your partying into more like spirituality?
Yeah, well, so I was always involved ever since college, like probably junior, sophomore year. I always loved reading like books on audio, self-help, personal transformation, without realizing that's the world that I was always interested in, of like, how can I be a better leader? Like I remember reading a book about The Leader in You by Dale Carnegie. Like it's like a classic book on leadership or whatever, like from the 40s or whatever. I remember like reading and like loving it. It's like I was like, oh my God, this stuff is so great. These are like self-help books, you know. We have a million of them these days. And I remember like reading this stuff like starting in college and like loving it. And so there was always a part of it that was always looking for more, like more meaning, like how can I be a better person? How can I be like a better version of myself? Because how can I excel at what I'm doing, you know? And I remember like after I graduated, one of the things that happened when I was graduating was like a few days before my final graduation, 2005, my apartment burned down in college. And I was like, it was so weird. It was like the best thing that happened, and I'll tell you why. So like I was taking one of my final exams, and it was actually in a bar. Like it was like a celebration class. Like it was a class, but we finished everything. So the teacher, we met and we were just hanging out, having food and having some drinks with the class. And I kept getting a phone call, and I was just like, what's going on? You know, and it was my neighbor. She's like, dude, your apartment is burning down right now. Your room. Quickly ran over there, and like pretty much everything was gone in there. And so I had insurance, so I was able to buy everything back. And in that process, I went to a bookstore and bought a bunch of books because some of my books burned down. So I just bought some new books. And I got some books on power of using your mind. There's a book called How to Use Your Mind and Get Anything You Want, or How to Use Your Mind and Get Everything. And I was just like, what is this idea? Or what is this subject? And it was obviously talking about things like the law of attraction,
right?
You know, because those books had been out there forever, but The Secret had also just come out like a year or two after that. So like I was leading my way into that book, which really changed my life. Celestine Prophecy was another book. I don't know if you've heard of that. I forget the author's name. Amazing book. So these are like 2006, 2007 that I was reading about spirituality, our perspective on life, on religion, and different dogmatic ideas that controls our lives, actually, if we don't realize it. Like these are the strong like backbone of our psyche, our human psyche, which makes up the matrix, you know. And this is the subconscious behavior, and religion is a big part of that. You're going to go to hell if you do this. You're going to go to heaven if you do this. And it's just like, so these are the things that a part of our brought up, you know, in our program. And I started like looking into ideas of how can I change this program that I was Taz Rashid in 2006, you know. What would it, so I didn't even realize what I wanted to shift into, but around 2007, 8, what I come to was the amount of partying that I was doing and like living the corporate life and just, again, being a zombie in the matrix. I was having fun, but I just realized I wasn't fulfilled. Like I was like, what is there for me to do? Am I just going to die like this? Like I'm prescribing to all these ideas, but this is not real. And so I started questioning the reality. That's what was going on. Like question your life. And that started leading me into these paths and practices.
Yeah. And so is that kind of what led you into yoga, or were you practicing yoga before?
I was doing meditation first. Like I practiced yoga. I would do it here and there, but not like a regular practice. It was more like yoga as a meditation.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing a lot of, actually, starting 2006, 2007, even while I was partying. And I speak about this in some other podcasts. So, you know, the whole idea was like, I was trying to improve my mind, and I was in sales and marketing, and I was always trying to keep a positive attitude. So I started with like binaural beats meditations, guided meditations, and how I can reprogram my subconscious to be more positive and attract things I want. So I would like listen to these meditations all the time. There was a lady named Kelly Howell. She's, in my opinion, one of the best, guided meditation teachers out there. She still has her stuff now, but I discovered her in a bookstore, bought her CD. It was like, if this bookstore was my, client, I went in there and this guy told me, he's like, hey, you listen to this stuff, fall asleep with it, you'll be like a different person in a couple of months. And I'm just like, that's crazy. And I tried it and it totally worked. Like my whole life started changing from 2006, wow. 7, and the decisions I was, making and how it led me into better situations of a corporate lifestyle, getting rid of debt, 100%, meeting my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and then, going into like actually leaving the matrix, as I call it, which is like the 9-to-5 cubicle life, and then going off the deep end down the rabbit hole into where I am today. And that's like a whole journey. It's not like in one day I was like DJ producer traveling around the world, but it's like, you got to take that step at some point. Of course, you need to take care of your household and finances, but like I was able to like leave that and start making smaller decisions that I just kept saying yes to possibilities. Like that's the thing, is like it just starts, different things just come your way, when you become like a yes person with your passion path. And there's so many crazy ways how things led, it's just like things connect, and we all have those stories.
Yeah.
But it was a meditation, and then it was yoga, became more of a part of it.
It's amazing. And so what does your yoga practice look like now? Like, what do you...
Yeah. My practice is not like I have some daily practice. I get up at 4 a.m. and meditate. And
I don't either.
I have a 2-year-old. I have a 2-year-old baby. So like, my wife and I, we take care of her, and we're pretty busy with our life. And I'm lucky if I get to practice maybe 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
Anywhere between, now because I'm home, I'm not going to a studio. Like before, when COVID wasn't happening, I would go to like a studio and practice like 3-4 times a week, like a 1 hour, 75-minute kind of class. I personally love like strong vinyasa flow class with music. I love hot yoga. I love to sweat, but not Bikram, but just like hot vinyasa flow. So that's my personal favorite. I love like going to like strong, like almost like fitness style yoga classes.
Yeah.
I like them all. And like, if I'm really need to stretch, I love yin classes, but I don't practice yin as much. I'm into the yoga vinyasa flow.
Cool.
Kind of thing. And yeah.
How did you end up like making music specifically for yoga? Like, how did that end up? And I think it's amazing, by the way. Like, I feel like it's just, I'm able to piece together a playlist. I think I was saying earlier that like just has an arc. And that is so hard to come by, like just the perfect music to fit the mood. And so that's what I love about your music, is that you have like kind of music for every moment in the practice. And so it makes it just really easy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it wasn't something I planned at all. Like honestly, 2011 is when I left. I was working at a university in a cubicle recruiting students online, and they fired me, and it was like the best thing in the world. And my boss was super cool. He was just like, you got to go, man. You got to go somewhere else and do your magic. Like he knew, he was like, you're going to do great things, but you do, like, he was like, as if he was doing me a favor. He's like, you got to leave. Like, sorry, man, this is not for you. But I wasn't DJing then. I've been playing music since like 5th grade. Like piano is my main jam, like I was classically trained and stuff. And I used to go to like state competitions. So I have a backbone of theory. Like I understand how to write music because I grew up with it. And like I took all these theory classes as a child. Thank God my parents took me to piano classes. And one of my teachers really was like, you have to learn theory. And whatever I learned then, it's like part of my psyche now. And like, I just kind of like get things, which I love. And so I wasn't planning to become like a yoga musician, but the way I got into it was I taught myself how to DJ before I was producing music. I just played guitar and piano and hand drums. And like, I just played the instruments for fun, but producing is like another art. That's like learning computers really well. Like you have to learn all the programs, like how to produce, and that you like literally should go to school for like a year or something. And there's just a lot of bells and whistles that you just need to know. And, you know, one of my friends, his name is Rara. Rara Avis, he originally was part of the Desert Dwellers. He was like listening to some of my music, and he was just like, you haven't really ever gone to school for music production, have you? I'm like, no. And he's like, highly recommend you just do that. And he gave me some names of, and I listened to him. Like I told him later, I'm like, I did what you said, and I took a year, invested a bunch of money, and and that changed my life. You know, like you have to like invest in yourself, into your passion, because yeah, you can do it the hard way and just watch YouTube videos, and you're going to continue, like even if you go to school, you're going to still continue learning. It's not like you got it all, but schools usually have some sort of structure. You know, you need some sort of mentor. And I work with a lot of other producers through the school who was like giving me feedback on my music. So I was like learning, and this is just a couple of years ago. Like I started producing 2014, 15, but I didn't go to this school till like 2017, like 2018, I think. So like I was producing kind of like self-taught.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. Some of my, you know, I wrote some stuff that still get played a lot even during that time. So I was making decent, but my production just got a lot better after I actually invested in myself and went to school. So what happened was I was DJing in Chicago where I like lived around 2011, 12. And I just wanted to create like parties without drugs and alcohol. Cause so 2000, I think 8 or 9, I stopped partying. Like I was just like, I want a different reality for myself. So I gave that up. I'd also met, you know, my wife, and she was on that path to recovery, getting out of that, you know, world. And so we wanted to create these parties, and we called it Club Divine. We used to do a meditation like once a week on Fridays, and I would just like play music out of like a speaker, and people would stick around and be like, you should get like a speaker and just like, you know, play this music. And I'm like, okay, that's like a DJ or something. So I taught myself how to DJ, and we started doing these parties, and like 50, 60 people would come, sometimes up to 80 people. And that's like a solid group in a room, you know, like, so we would meditate for like 2 hours, and then we would do this party. And then it started becoming a thing in Chicago. I would do it once a month, you know. On the peak, there was probably like close to 200 people that would come. Wow. It was great. Like there was different rooms. There was like a healer massage room. Like there was a chill room, and there was like a dance room. Sometimes we'd have vendors. And this was like, people got to know me in the Chicago scene as a DJ, but like a kind of like a conscious musician DJ. Yeah. And so my wife was in yoga teacher training. And so her teacher asked, hey, you want to come DJ one of our classes? And I was, that's like kind of weird, but I just said yes to it. And I don't even know that they would pay me. I was just like, sure, my wife is in your class, I'll come and play. And they were insistent upon paying me. And then they were like, instantly, they were like, can you come back next month? And all of a sudden I'm playing at all these yoga studios, North Chicago, like left and right. I'm like, is this real? And then I didn't really know it was going to become a lifelong thing, which is like, I was like, is this like a career path? Because there really isn't a career path around this. You kind of have to create it for yourself. It's not easy. I'll tell you that right now. There's not a lot of us that's made it full time doing this thing. You have to hustle like crazy and be super creative around how you make your income doing it, because it's not like yoga studios are just paying giant fees to DJs to come play music, you know, especially now it's like non-existent. But I got invited to a festival with Wanderlust. Yeah. They found me.
I've been to Wanderlust.
Yeah. So somehow they found me, and they were in Chicago at a big, you know, field called Grant Park in the city. There's like 6,000 people there that day. And they booked me as the DJ, and it blew my mind. I saw the possibility. I saw, wow, like there is a world of yogis awakening into their higher selves, and I'm going to be one of the musicians that's going to help take them to that higher level. And I made that decision that day. And they obviously heard me, and they loved what they saw and heard and what I was doing. And they invited me to like all their events. Like their owner one of the owners like personally called me, which was like, so it was all out of invitation. I never applied to go in there. They just reached out to me, and I said a big yes. But I was also working with Yoga Journal at the time. So my resume was starting to build up, but it was, all these yoga places, not even those ecstatic dance events kind of went away. I love those
Yeah.
events. I played them here and there, but the yoga events, meditation events are they're still my calling, and yeah.
It's amazing. And
I was
it's
like,
amazing.
I got to make music for it. I was like, okay, I'm DJing, but I got to make my own music, and I know how to write music. So I just taught myself, went to school.
It's so cool. And I love how it's like you never saw this being like where you would end up. And it's just kind of like
Never
the
planned
direction,
for
you look backwards and you're like, this all makes sense. But like the path leading up to it is like, you never knew where you were headed.
So we talk about passion, and in 2011, I worked with my friend who's also a life coach. His name is Soleo. And he had me write down my passion. We did some work and some visioning. And my passion was to inspire and enliven humanity with music. And I didn't know how I was going to do that because I wasn't even DJing at that point. I wasn't even producing. But I wrote down my passion, and people who are listening out there, I highly encourage you to write down your purpose. If once you realize you're like, this is me, this is what I'm called to be, write it down and like meditate on it. But because you kind of start actualizing it in physical form when you write it out, there's something powerful and energetic that happens. And I didn't know the how yet. And my friend was like, don't worry about the how, that'll happen. The universe starts orchestrating. Like, it's like you put in the order.
Yeah.
Excuse me. When you find your passion, you check it in. The universe is like, okay, we got his passion order. Let's orchestrate some magic. And, he's going to meet this person and he's going to be invited to go here. And then he'll meet her. And this, it's like, you got to call that in.
It's incredible. Oh, it's so inspiring.
Mm.
So if any of our listeners are interested in finding you, like what events, workshops, what do you have going on online?
I'm kind of all over the place right now because I'm not physically touring as much. I'm working with all kinds of online events. I'm doing regular things with Wanderlust, different yoga teachers. I just started this series with Kino McGregor and so other yoga teachers. And yeah, I'm online a lot. So the best place to find me are places like Spotify. If you just want to listen to my music, follow me there. Apple Music, everything's under DJ Taz Rashid. You can go on my website, djtazrashid.com, and I've got some free music there. But I will be starting to do live events very soon. I have like 10 events booked in June, like in-person events. And I'm so excited because I'm like, is this a return? They're all outdoor events, which is great. So the summer, I think people have to realize right now that it's safe enough to do outdoor events, keeping the distance and stuff like that, however you want. But you can still do indoor events, but I think outdoor events are going to become really popular. Yeah. So I have things like that coming up. I'm doing an event here in Florida. I'm currently in Florida right now till May. Another outdoor event that's going to happen in April. But yeah, Instagram, places like that, stay tuned. If anyone out there is a yoga teacher or you use music or need music, I developed this program last year with my music and a few friends' music where you can use it all and monetize your videos, programs. And it's an incredible offer for what the value and what professionals actually charge to license music. I just created something that was really accessible and affordable for yoga studios and yoga teachers and movement facilitators, meditators. And that's on my website as well, which maybe you can include or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We can definitely put in a link there. It's amazing because it's so hard, especially now that so many of us are online, to find like the right music. And so,
and you have it. You have one of the licenses.
I do. Yeah. Perfect. And I've used it in my classes and my Instagram videos, and it's been amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's a good way to stay in touch.
Cool. Okay. My last question is, what advice would you have to someone who is like stuck in kind of the partying scene and like wants to get out of that loop? What would you say?
Well, I would say, first of all, that bravo that they want to get out, because that awareness is the first step, So if there's somebody that's like, oh my God, I'm partying a lot and I want to get out, that is one of the most important steps is the awareness or realization that you're kind of stuck in a rut or you're doing something that's not like realistic and you want to like change that. That yearning to change is key. And I had that yearning, and then I was still stuck in that world for like a year or 2 years because I just kept. So you have to really look at who your friends are. Okay. That's one thing I had to look at, is a close look at who are the people I'm surrounded by. Yeah. If you're partying a lot, take a good look at your environment. What is your environment? Are you going to a lot of clubs, bars, parties? Who are you hanging out with, spending most of your time? The check-in of your environment will tell you a lot of things about what you may need to change. I literally, in Chicago, when I stopped partying, I kind of stopped hanging out with a lot of the people I was hanging out with, because all they were doing was partying. Like my only connection with them, we're friends, but our main connection was, let's go to the bar and let's drink. So that is one of the first steps, to really look at your environment and see what needs to shift, because I would go to some of these environments and not drink, and I felt stupid. I was like, what am I doing here? This is like a waste of time.
Yeah.
So check out your environment, and then ask yourself what you really want to do. I feel like finding your purpose or passion can really help, inspire you to maybe make some decisions to get out of that world. Because a lot of the people that are stuck in that world, sometimes, not everyone, but a lot, they're stuck in the matrix. They don't have a sense of strong passion. Okay. That's not to say that, people who have a strong passion and purpose, they can't have like drinks and party and have a good time. Of course you can. Yeah. So those are some good steps to start with. And then surround yourself with people and situations that will maybe nurture you, like will help you. So it's about, life is relationship. Everything is about our environment and what we surround ourselves with. If we want to get out of the drug scene, but we keep going to raves, it's not going to change. You see what I'm saying? It's like, it's not going to happen. You're going to just keep partying more because it's the kind of environment you're with. So environment is, that would be the first step to look at.
It's so true.
Go to yoga festivals or yoga classes or meditation situations or exercise. Like fitness is great. Like even if you're not into yoga, like go work out more, like addiction is like, in my opinion, addictions show up in different ways. You may stop partying, but it'll show up in different ways. Technology, food, exercise, yoga, like it's a psyche thing, so we didn't obviously talk about all that, but those are huge conversations. Addiction is a sneaky thing, it shows up in different ways in our life. I mean, I still have addictions to different things. I'm sure, like work, like, I should be doing this, but I'm doing this. Like having the awareness is good. And it's a journey,
Totally. And, I've asked a lot of people that question, and you're the first person that's identified that whole aspect of like finding your purpose and your passion. And like, I know for myself, like when I hit, 30 days sober, that was like the game changer for me. Like I had to figure out, okay, what am I here to do? Why am I so unhappy that I'm like numbing myself so much? And finding that passion is what like kept me propelling forward. I think you really hit the nail with that one.
Thank you. And one other thing I will say is that one of the questions I asked myself, and I asked myself this out of a pure physical, like, I don't know how many people out there have ever, like when we would party in Chicago, and when I was partying a lot, I was in the rock music scene and I was also in like the nightclub scene. Like, so I was partying mainly with alcohol, some cannabis, but cocaine was also involved at times. And like, it was a great time, but like the morning after, you don't feel so great sometimes, you call that the cocaine blues. And, and I remember sometimes just feeling so shitty that like, I just felt so bad that you literally were like, why am I here? Like, what am I doing? It's like, it's the cocaine blues. And I'm happy I was in those states because it allowed me to ask myself, like, am I fulfilled?
Yeah.
And that is a question that anybody can, like, are you fulfilled with your life? It doesn't matter how cool you are, how much money, like, do you feel fulfilled? And if you can't honestly, like without ego to yourself, honestly, if you can't say yes, you need to like look at yourself in different ways. Like what needs to shift so you can actually feel fulfilled with your life. And that question allowed me to start really look into what the hell is all this about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's a great thing to end on. Taz, thank you so much. It was honestly like so cool to meet you. And I hope that I meet you in real life one day. Come to one of your events, come to one of those Wanderlust festivals.
You can organize a yoga festival in Dubai. That's where you are. Or, wait, where are you?
I'm in Abu Dhabi. Yeah.
Abu Dhabi. Yeah, UAE. Yeah. I know that they're doing yoga stuff over there. So organize it. Book me, have me out there.
Epic. 100%. I'm in.
Yeah, I want to play in the Middle East because, my last name, Rashid. It's like, I bet it would be great. Be like, oh, we got DJ Taz Rashid. Yeah, in the Middle East. Like,
it would be.
I want to come out there. Let's do it.
Amazing. Sweet. I'm game. Cool. Well, thank you so much. And have a great day. And we'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks so much.